This is John for Johnny'sBeat.com. Today I have the pleasure of being on the beat with Jean Fruth, photographer extraordinaire. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, John.
Thanks for being here. I'm so excited because I followed your work. You've pretty much done everything in the world of photography, and you've had a couple books out. So let's just jump into it. Got a lot to cover. The story of how you got in, how you became a professional photographer, I think is very interesting. Could you take us through that?
Yeah, I actually started my photography career in portraiture, not because it was a passion, it was just where an opportunity was to get started. And these two women had a nice portrait business in Northern California. It was black and white film on location, and they did beautiful work. So I had the opportunity to work with them. I offered to print their work in their darkroom in exchange for them taking me on shoots. And it became a really nice partnership, and eventually got to work with them and learned a ton from them about interacting and taking a portrait. Portrait photographer is probably one of the most difficult things to do, is to take a portrait and connect with a person. And they taught me well. And then from there, I was taking classes, trying to figure it out: landscape photography, wedding photography. And then when sports presented itself as an option, I really never looked back. It was immediately a connection and a passion, and I couldn't get enough of it, and started working, shooting Bay Area sports, high school, college sports, youth sports, for a local newspaper, a group of newspapers. And then had the opportunity to work with Michael Zagaris with the Oakland A's and the San Francisco 49ers. And that was my first foray into professional sports. And it's absolutely amazing. And I still get the same thrill.
For you, in a connection, you were coaching your son's team.
Exactly. So when how I got started in sports was I was coaching my son's, it's actually a rookie ball team. And then Little League called me, and he was only 8. And they said, "Oh, we'd like you to coach Little League next year." And I said, "Oh, I'm not really much of a coach. You don't want me." And they were looking for women coaches. They wanted to expand that. They had only had one woman coach who was not coaching anymore. So they said, "We'll put you with experienced coaches and they'll teach you." And I thought, okay, that's great. And that was in Healdsburg, California. And they put me with two amazing coaches, and I had the time of my life, and I learned all about coaching baseball from them. And I never really made it as much of a coach, but I was shooting every game, and I shot all of their other games and all-star games, and I submitted all-star photos to a local newspaper. And they called me and asked me if I'd be interested in shooting other sports. And away I went. And then Friday Night Lights became part of my life.
Well, coaching's loss is photography's gain. Now, you had said that you worked with Michael Zagaris. I mean, to start out, the guy's a legend. For you to start out and have him as working with him very early on in your career, how was that?
Oh, it was an amazing opportunity. I mean, Michael Zagaris, otherwise known as the Z-Man. I mean, he's a team photographer for the Oakland A's and the San Francisco 49ers today. He's been shooting football for over 50 years. And actually, he has a football book that he's working on now that I know will be phenomenal. And he shot rock and roll, and he's a connector. He connects to people, and that's what Z does. And what he's known for, sure, he can do action like everybody else, and fabulous action, but his behind the scenes and telling the story of the athlete is like no other. And I had that opportunity. I would go to Oakland A's games with him. We'd stand in front of the visiting dugout, and we'd shoot these incredible candids of players interacting, having fun, sitting on the bench. And Z knew all of them, and he knew their fathers who played before them, and he knew where they went to school. And he just had this incredible memory and knowledge of the game that he passed on to me. And the most exciting photos were before the game started, with our wide angle lenses interacting with these players. And I thought every sports photographer did it that way. And finally I was traveling when I was working for the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I'd go to these other ballparks, and nobody was standing in front of the dugout doing what Z was doing. It was just unique to Oakland. And so having that opportunity and learning to be a sports photographer with a wide angle lens instead of just a big sports 400 zoom changed, and formed me, not changed me, but formed the way, the photographer that I am today.
So when did you realize that you could actually make photography your career?
It was just something that, I always wanted it to be, and it's not easy to make photography your career. And there's a lot of young people. I'm actually teaching a class right now in photography. I do these workshops, and you just have to have the passion. It's certainly not about, if you're going for, wanting to make a lot of money in sports photography, it's just not there, so it's got to be a passion, and it's got to be something that drives you. And but the opportunities are there. Images are more important than ever. More images are looked at in different ways. The world changes all the time. You got to change with it. Now everything is online, everything is on your phone, and you got to go with that and adjust to that. And if you're passionate about it, you keep going, and there's new things to learn. And I'm working with a group now that does a ton of online, and they're all, young people, and they're terrific. And I learn, so much from them. And the photography is for me more than, anything else. Is making images that you're proud of and that you want to show the world and document the game.
So after so many years of shooting ballparks and ball players, how do you not fall into the trap of, or how do you keep them fresh? How do you keep finding fresh angles, fresh looks?
It's a great question. And again, going back to teaching, if you go to the same old spot, you get the same old results. If you do the same old thing, same old results. So you do have to challenge yourself. I am lucky that I'm constantly traveling to new places, and my grassroots baseball work allows me, a lot more access to shooting in different ways. if you go to the World Series, you get given a position and you stay in that position pretty much. There's not that much flexibility in big games, even in big fields. And now, photo wells are smaller. There's more photographers than ever. Everybody's getting the same photograph. So when I do my grassroots work and I'm traveling around the world, and I might be shooting old guys playing stickball, or young kids playing, or a college state championship game, it gives you a lot more opportunity to be creative. The backgrounds are different. The look is different. The cultures are different. And so you're documenting the game in this different way and telling the story, not only of the action and of the sport, but you're telling the story of the culture. And that keeps it incredibly fresh for me, because, baseball maybe played the same, but it certainly looks different in different places.
So you brought up Grassroots Baseball. Why don't you tell us about it? I know it's an organization. It's your organization.
Yeah, so Grassroots Baseball, when I was traveling shooting the major league game for the Baseball Hall of Fame, I would go to Japan and shoot the World Baseball Classic. And I'd always try to shoot. I love the grassroots game. It's where I came from. Coaching my son's little league team, Healdsburg, California, really never left me. And I love that part of the game where it's not about money and contracts, but it's really just about pure joy and for love of the game, and families are involved and culture is involved. And so if I was in Japan, I would peel off and try to find a little league game in Tokyo. And when I'm shooting the winter leagues in the Dominican Republic or in Mexico, I try to find some street ball, or, it's not hard to find baseball in the Dominican Republic. You just walk down any street and it's there. And it's documenting that game just became a passion project, a side project from, my major league job. If I was in Texas, I'd try to shoot little league, or try to shoot a youth game, or even old guys playing stickball, in New York City, whatever it was, to document the game. And those images kept growing, and I really wasn't doing anything with them. It was just a project for me. And then connecting with Hall of Famers at the Baseball Hall of Fame and getting to know them and taking their portraits and hearing their stories about what it was like growing up where they were living. I thought, well, what a great concept is to take these amateur images that I'm taking and tie them in with these legends and let them tell their stories. So Rickey Henderson was the first Hall of Famer that I asked. And I said, would you be interested in telling your story of what it was like growing up in Oakland, California, playing baseball? And, he immediately went into a story of how he wanted to play football, not baseball. And it was a great story. And I thought this would be just terrific. And every Hall of Famer who we asked to participate said yes. They loved the idea of telling their early days, Vladimir Guerrero, Cal Ripken Jr. And they were all different, just great stories all around the world from these legends tied with these images of the next generation or generations, that came after them, and the hopefulness of the new generation wanting to maybe make it to the top, or, just happy playing Little League. So after the book came out, I just really wanted to continue with Grassroots and make it bigger than just a book. And I connected with Jeff Idelson, who is now retired from the Baseball Hall of Fame, and as president. And we connected, and we started an organization, a not-for-profit called Grassroots Baseball. And it celebrates the game around the world. We've done clinics with kids all across along Route 66 to get us started, and had Hall of Famers join us and retired players to do clinics with kids. They got free Rawlings gloves. They got introduced to the game. And now we're just continuing on the path. We finished our Route 66 project. We have a new one on the way that we're going to announce on March 8th. So maybe I'll come back and do an announcement with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm excited for this next project. But it's great. And we're getting just a great response where people come and what can we do? How can we, people who we get donations on our website, and people are interested in joining, celebrating this game and bringing attention to it and helping the next generation play it. So it's been great to add this purpose to my work.
So your first book was Grassroots Baseball, and you just came out with a second book. Could you tell us about the second book?
Oh, Grassroots Baseball Route 66. Just finished printing it. And so it'll be out for the early in this baseball season, probably end of April. I think we're slated, the publisher has it as May 11th, but we'll probably have it a little bit sooner than that. And it was just a terrific journey of 3 years of along Route 66. As you know, it starts in Chicago and ends in Santa Monica, and all these stories of Americana along the way. And we also had legends tell their story of what it was like growing up and playing baseball along Route 66. And the Americana along the route, and a lot of the route, of course, is, been replaced by highway, but there's still all these great motels and baseball being played in these small towns. And Johnny Bench tells a great story of what it was like growing up along Route 66, and George Brett in LA at the end of Route 66, and he grew up there. And Jim Thome tells a terrific story. And it's just, we got great legends and really fun stories. And the images really just look different than anything else. I'm really excited about this one. My photography has changed and grown over the years, and this one's really special to me.
Now, you've mentioned a few names, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Who would be some of your favorite baseball players?
Well, I do like the retired guys, when they're in that reflective part of their career and they have time to tell the stories. And I also just like how simple it was, back then. It was just a lot less complicated, I think, back in the day when Johnny Bench was playing, and, certainly a lot less money involved and a lot more access to players than, they were just, I think, more like, regular guys that you could probably, see in your local pub after the game. And, there's something nostalgic about that. And so, guys like Johnny Bench, and then somebody like Cal Ripken Jr., he's a big deal to me because he's really dedicated himself to the sport after he retired. I mean, his Cal Ripken, experience, and I had the opportunity to shoot at his facility, one of his facilities, he has 3, but the way they teach kids the game and life lessons, it's pretty impressive, and it comes from him, and, it means something to him, and the integrity that he has, and that's important to him. It really shows through in his organization. And so he becomes one of my favorites, for sure, because of, the way he conducts himself and his dedication to youth sports now. It's pretty impressive. And
2 good choices. I couldn't say a bad word. I haven't heard anybody say a bad word on either of those guys. So
yeah. How about you? Who's your favorite?
Oh man, there's so many. My favorite baseball. Okay, honestly, I have 2 favorite baseball players, and they're not really famous. One, because he lived literally across the street from me when I was growing up. His name was Rick Stomajic. He was a catcher. Didn't play much in the majors, but he went on to a really long career as a coach with the Twins. I think he was the second longest tenured coach ever with one franchise. And then my other favorite player would be Mike Squires, first baseman with the Chicago White Sox, because I kind of grew up watching him. And so, yeah, now if I have to go like really big star players, I probably would go Johnny Bench.
Yeah.
Hard to argue. Johnny Bench, I mean, he clearly is a top 5 catcher of all time.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So those guys are just great, and in more contemporary, Ken Griffey Jr. did so much for the game, and you can just go on and on. But yeah, those guys are, Jim Thome is the nicest man on the planet.
Jim Thome, as you were saying that, I have a real quick Jim Thome story. He's absolutely one of the nicest guys. My nephew and I were covering the Twins. We're up in Minnesota in the dome, and under the dome, it's really cramped and the hallways are really tight. And we were walking through to try to get some interviews, and he was working out before the game with a medicine ball, bouncing it off the wall. And so and he was kind of blocking the hallway. So we stood back. I mean, it's Jim Thome. I'm not going to bother him. He actually apologized for blocking the way, which I thought was nice, very nice. But then we were on the field later, and he came up again and apologized and offered us an interview, which is just crazy. It's Jim Thome.
Terrific. Just a class act through and through. And it doesn't even surprise me. It's just so cool. He did a clinic with us, and he was so amazing with these kids who never played baseball before, and gentle and patient, and so those are my heroes.
So you traveled all over the world. What would be like your couple of favorite places and a couple maybe bucket list places?
Oh, so, I love shooting Latin American baseball. That's, just all the places, the passion. Like I just finished shooting the Caribbean series, and unfortunately Cuba wasn't there. Cuba is probably top on my list, and I need to get back. And I've shot baseball there quite a few times. I love the baseball there. I love how pure it is. Now there's more cell phones. But just, not too long ago when I was there, especially if you leave Havana, you'd go to a game, the stadium is packed. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get in, obviously. They're all there, students are there. And the excitement for watching the game, nobody's like this, on their phones, paying attention, which is what you see so much right now, is they put those big nets up, right? Because people are getting hit with balls because they're looking at their phone. But not there, they're watching the game, and I just love how present they are, the fans are. And then just in general, places like the Dominican Republic and Venezuela and Colombia just won for the first time, and watching this, documenting this celebration. And it was, a historic moment. And I also got to see what it was like. I didn't go with them, but they got this big hero's welcome when they went back to Colombia. They brought back the Caribbean Series trophy. And so they're new, they're not as big or known for baseball, of course, not like the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Mexico. But it's really fun to see these countries play against each other for country pride and how much it means to them. And, just the reaction that they have, and then the fans that show up to this, and, how the country pride that they have, rooting for their country and their team. And you just take it back to guys like Vladimir Guerrero, and what he went through in the Dominican Republic, and how he grew up, gets to the United States, doesn't speak English, and then makes it all the way to the Hall of Fame. And when he does, he's got a responsibility to both, his team and the United States, and then a whole country who wants to celebrate him and depends on him. So, so those are certainly its favorite places, and it makes for great pictures. If you can't take a bad picture in Cuba and the Dominican Republic, the colors and it's just filled with this vibrant beauty. I haven't shot in Venezuela. I've shot Venezuelan players in all different countries when they come for the Caribbean series, but I would like to, and I know there's a lot of unrest there politically and problems, but it's certainly on my list to shoot in Venezuela. And I'd like to shoot in just places where baseball is up and coming. I've been to Australia, but I never shot baseball there. So I'd like to do that, and just covering the game in different places and obscure places. And what is that like? What is the culture of baseball like there? So the bucket list is long.
Well, before I let you go, and I really, really appreciate your time, and I absolutely would love it if you came back on for your announcement in March. That'd be fantastic. We'd love to
Sure.
talk to you about that. Before I let you go, tell everybody where they can find you all over line.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah. So Instagram is Jean Fruth Images. And also my website is Jean Fruth Images, and also grassrootsbaseball.com and Grassroots Baseball on Instagram. Give us a follow there, and we'll be making our announcement, and we're growing our followers for Grassroots. And we have different posts on each, both Jean Fruth Images and Grassroots, our not-for-profit. So thanks so much for having me on. This has been so nice.
Well, thank you very much. And I encourage everyone to check out your site. I checked it out many times. The amount of information, the amount of pictures on there is mind blowing. And I've spent far many hours just, I get like down the rabbit hole. I start looking at it, and then I start looking at this and that and this. And, it's really beautiful, beautiful work. And I so appreciate your time. I so appreciate you sharing your experiences with us. And again, I would love for you to come back on and talk about your next project.
Oh, I would absolutely love it. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.